Today on the CTV News at 5, one man is killed in an avalanche snowmobile accident, honoring a friend who died the same way. Plus, a Tabor man is charged with sexual assault and break and enter at the home of an 89-year-old woman. And could funding cuts affect childcare across the province?
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. A man caught in an avalanche in British Columbia over the weekend was on a memorial trip celebrating the life of his friend who was killed in the same area last year. His body has finally been recovered. He and a group of friends were snowmobiling in the popular area near Kimberley when the slide happened. All but one were found shortly after. Lisa Rossington reports.
The body of the man was retrieved today by helicopter. The man, part of a group of 7 snowmobilers, hit by a huge slide in the Purcell Mountains west of Kimberley yesterday afternoon.
Avalanche came down, and at the end of it, one was missing. And so the search efforts have been ongoing yesterday and today to locate that missing snowmobiler.
Recovery crews had to use explosives to trigger more snow slides so they could safely move in to get the man's body.
Decided that they needed to bomb it to make it safe for the searchers, and that's what happened yesterday, and then they were on and searching right away.
The debris field of the avalanche, over 1 kilometer long and 40 meters deep. The group was in the steep terrain of the Hell Roaring Creek area, an area prone to snow slides. In 2009, snowmobiler Clayton Smith died after being buried for several minutes. His 4 friends watched it happen.
They found him quickly and were able to dig him out. Unfortunately, he was buried in 3 to 4 meters of snow.
Friends had to leave the unconscious man behind because it was too dangerous for them to stay. Experts say the conditions are dangerous in the Purcell Mountains. Heat from the sun is melting snow buildup on mountain cliffs. The man's identity has not been released. Lisa Rossington, CTV News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, the death of a southern Alberta inmate after a fall has led a fatality inquiry judge to call for better monitoring of injured prisoners. The inquiry looked into the May 2011 death of Curtis Mills, who was put in a jail cell when he showed up drunk for an annual sex offender review at the Mar.25 police station. Mills hit his head on a concrete floor after he got up to get a meal tray. But medical staff thought he was going through alcohol withdrawal and decided he didn't need to go to hospital. The inquiry judge says that staff should monitor injured prisoners more frequently and conduct visual checks by a guard rather than watching them on video monitors. Meanwhile, a public inquest got underway in Invermere today into the deaths of 3 men in an unusual car crash on Highway 95. The BC Coroner's Office is looking into the deaths of 3 Lower Mainland men who were killed when their vehicle was hit by 2 separate trucks, both north of Briscoe 2 years ago. The crash happened when the car's 64-year-old driver pulled out of a rest stop and then collided with a southbound rig before careening into the northbound lane, where it was then hit again by an oncoming semi-trailer. Well, a man awaiting sentencing for child pornography charges won't find out if he's considered a long-term offender for another half a year. 26-year-old Patrick Brian Rickman pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography after a memory stick containing images was found in a computer lab at the University of Lethbridge in August of 2009. A hearing to determine if Rickman should be labeled a long-term sex offender won't happen until September, and it will happen in Calgary. The court could then add up to 10 years of supervision after his eventual release from custody. And Tabor police are commending an 89-year-old woman who fought off a sexual assault with a pair of scissors, then helped police catch her attacker, who's been identified as a 42-year-old man. The incident happened Friday night in Tabor. The feisty senior had just finished taking a bath when she stepped into the hallway and came face to face with an intruder. Police say she defended herself with a pair of scissors that she'd been using to clip her fingernails. The man fled the home but was arrested a few blocks away. Police say the man didn't need hospital treatment, but he received minor puncture wounds that were consistent with the victim's description of what happened.
You know, for an 89-year-old woman to not only fight off her attacker, but to also then calmly, shortly thereafter, place a 911 call to our dispatch center and to be able to give us the information that we required to apprehend the suspect, she did an awesome job.
Now, police say in this case, the elderly woman made the right choice by defending herself and then calling 911. They say a sexual attack on a senior would be troubling in any community. 42-year-old Eric Sean Johnson, who's also known as Sean Bartz, is facing charges of break and enter and committing a sexual assault. He's also charged with possession of marijuana. Johnson was known to police through investigators have declined to comment any further. He is in custody and is scheduled to appear in court tomorrow morning. And fire crews were called to yet another structure fire in Lethbridge over the weekend. This time it was a home on the 400 block of 20th Street North. The fire broke out overnight Friday. Investigators say early indications are that a heater in one of the bedrooms started the blaze. Damage is pegged at around $40,000. Luckily, no one was injured. Okay, Dory, if we were to pick one word for the weather today, I'm going to say fabulous.
Yeah, that about sums it up. We've got a really nice stretch ahead of us, Jackie, and from the responses on our Facebook page from when we posted the forecast page, people are pretty happy about it all in all, and I'm one of the ones that's happy about it too, because I get to report the fact that we've got spring weather ahead and a good stretch of it. I'll tell you all about it in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Dory. Childcare advocates are speaking up about funding cuts that they say will affect the quality of childcare across the province. The province has told childcare centres it's cutting the Quality Enhancement Grant as of next week. The grant provides $7,500 to childcare and day home agencies and another $4,000 to before and after school programs.
Alberta already provides amongst the lowest funding in Canada for childcare, and so this cut is further going to exacerbate the problems. There are far too many families that are on waiting lists that are unable to get into quality childcare, and so we're deeply concerned about this cut.
Now, the grant had previously been offered for the last 8 years. We'll have more details coming up in our 5:30 news. Ezekiel Stefan was just 19 months old when he passed away from meningitis over a year ago. His parents have now been charged with failing to provide the necessities of life after allegations that they didn't take their son to see a doctor soon enough after he grew ill. Now, over the weekend, the community of McGrath came together to raise funds for the couple's legal costs and remember the zestful toddler. Brendan Miller has more.
Ezekiel was a real fun-loving child. He's always happy, having fun. And so, as part of the fundraiser, we've basically held it in honor of him.
It was a glimpse of the things young Ezekiel loved, a carnival full of bouncy houses, games, and activities. But behind the smiles and laughter, a difficult day full of sorrow for a couple grieving the loss of their son.
It's a 1-year anniversary from the funeral of our son that passed away. And we love and miss him very much, and so we're very grateful to everyone coming out to support us, to show their love.
David and Colette Steffen lost their child nearly a year ago. Last month they were charged with not providing the necessities of life and are expected to face the charge in Lethbridge courts in May. Funds raised from the Memorial Carnival will go towards the couple's legal fees that are expected to run upwards of $80,000, a heavy burden to bear.
We've experienced two traumatic events, the passing of my son, and last year at this time we were holding his funeral, to then being charged just over a month ago. And it's been interesting to see how people are willing to step up and to really support you and to lift you up in your hardest times.
The hardest part of the last year, they say, is adapting to life without their son.
It took us months just to get used to him not being in the home anymore, not hearing, you know, his cheerful voice, hearing him call Dad, hearing him run around. That's been by far the hardest part. These charges are small in comparison to losing a son.
Brendan Miller, CTV News, McGrath.
$5,700 was raised to help cover the costs of legal fees. Well, police say you may not even know it, but there could be credit cards out there with your name on them. And as a way to cut down on identity theft, Lethbridge Regional Police held a free shredding event. Hundreds of people watched old documents shredded before their eyes in the AMA parking lot Saturday. Police say destroying items that contain personal information is one of the best ways to cut down on identity theft.
Well, if people get a hold of that information, like a bank statement, for instance, they have your name and they have your account number. Now they all have to do a little bit more checking online, and you can find out a little bit more information, and then you can start creating a new identity for that individual, or they can start creating bank accounts and taking out credit cards in your name and whatnot. That's the risk.
Police are going to be focusing on educating the public about investment scams during this final week of Fraud Prevention Month. Nerds rejoiced over the weekend as 3 days were set aside to celebrate their geekiness. Lethbridge's first ever Nerd Fest was held at the Galt Museum. Nerds from as far away as Vancouver and Moose Jaw came for lectures on the history of comic books, magic card tricks, and an all-night tournament of Dungeons and Dragons, and a meeting with astronaut Dr. Roberta Bondar. Chris Odler is a proud coordinator of the event, and he says they had a fabulous time and are already planning for next year's. A Southern Alberta oilseed plant is expanding. Richardson Oilseed says it will put more than double its processing capacity in Lethbridge. The project is expected to take a year. Work will start in early 2014. The company says the expansion will meet growing demand for canola oil in the United States and Asian markets. It's not likely that there will be any new jobs created, since most of the improvements will be through automation. Just last year, Richardson completed a $15 million expansion of the processing plant, increasing the size by 40%. Time now to check out how the markets kicked off the week.